Hello guys. I hope you all are doing well. This is the 11th of January 2026. Wanted to put for you a full weekly review in regards to the market. We're going to be covering a few things, starting from the crypto market, moving to other assets, checking maybe Nasdaq, S&P, nickel, gold, silver, and we're going to be going a little bit into forex, just exploring opportunities and see how exactly things could move in the coming few days and weeks. Before we're going to start this, please note that anything that I'm talking about here is not a financial advice. It's just the way that how I do review the market. So anything that we are mentioning here is just for an educational purposes. You need to do your own analysis when it's coming to the market. And yeah, I hope you guys gonna find benefits in this live and in this video. Uh, let's start with it. So starting from the hot topic always that it's most of the people they will be looking at it, which is gonna be Bitcoin, and nothing really changed from my side. That for me, I'm still like not expecting much from Bitcoin. Means that we're gonna be maybe getting moves that it's limited, like let's say to weekly time frames. And the best part for me is just to get the exposure on weekly basis, and that's all. Looking at BTC of what's exactly important for now. BTC, it's still in the range between the 87,400 and the 93,400 region. We do have a lot of news that's coming in the coming 2 weeks. Will we see BTC that it's going to start moving away from this range, start moving either like, let's say, to the upper side, or maybe also it's to the downside. We will see how exactly things it's going to unfold. There are a few things to look at it and to pay attention to it, which is how exactly we closed the previous week, which is it's a nice weekly candle. As for now, we retraced some of it, but we are still holding, we're still holding with more of a little bit of a strength more than the weakness. Just because of how exactly the week closed. So I'll be considering that, yeah, fine, we had a major issue here. We broke above it. Are we retesting here? Do we still have the steam to go for one more run, like let's say to the upper side, and see how exactly things it's going to unfold from there? Few things that I do pay attention to it every single time when it's coming, like let's say to the direction for BTC. Now, I'm going to be extremely honest with you. I'm still looking at BTC into two ways. That for me, BTC to come to this region, it's looking more appealing, to the upper side. And here we already came and we swept most of the levels, but at the same time, BTC didn't really tap this region. So I do have both of them. One of them is, to the upper side. One of them is still to the downside. Will we come at this region? We're gonna trade like let's say this liquidity. It's very possible. Try to pay attention to some things here that you can see. We already came and we swept this area. We swept this area. So all the liquidity from here, it's swept already. We built a nice liquidity at around these levels, and we built also a nice liquidity at around these levels. But none of them that I do consider them that they are caused by the climatic range or the big range. So for me, at this point, it's still you know, for me, I'm looking more or less for the price, like let's say to trade toward this area. I spoke a lot about the price coming into the 94.7, which it happened from this move. It was a nice move to catch, like let's say, a 6-7% move on BTC starting from the yearly open. That was a kind of an easy move to catch it, and you don't have really to complicate anything, when you are looking at these kind of things. The plays here that we do have it, that we do have also on looking at a local, like let's say, range and like a low time frame. We do have nice liquidity that it's built here and it's built here. We do have also a nice liquidity that it's built also here and here. So the price is still in the mid of nowhere. Also, you don't have really like a direction into this week. The only thing that I would say to keep an eye on it for now, it's where BTC is looking at here. because that's a major level for BTC to hold as a monthly pivot that we do have it. And definitely, this, which is its another level to look at it, which is it's coming again at around this level, which is it's the yearly open. This means by default that I will be looking again to have a little bit of a bias toward the upper side from here, a little bit of a bias from the downside from here. But BTC also can do this. You know, it's very possible that you might still stay in this range for a quite good time. To be honest with you, I'm looking at a lot of things and a lot of signs that BTC, it's not really getting the moves, and it's just like you're chopping yourself if you want really to get, like, let's say, blind bias on BTC. Like, with all my respect, if you try to trade BTC on any kind of a swings in the last 45 days and you didn't back profit within a range of a 5 to 6% move, then it's done. You round the trip, you'll trade it at any stage. Doesn't matter. If you moved from here, you're on the tripped. If you took it from here, you're on the tripped. From here, you're on the tripped, or you get stopped out. Same thing that's coming here, here, here. So the point that something to pay attention to it, that the problem with most of the people that they don't understand how to identify the environment, because the environment, long time ago, I spoke to you about it, that you do have an uptrend, you do have a range, you do have also a downtrend. You need to identify this, and you need to see how exactly things it's going to differentiate from an area to another area. No way on earth that you're going to be using, that's my opinion, that you're going to be using the same exact strategies in every single environment. It doesn't work. And that's why, let's assume that as an example, you are a person that you know how to trade, or your performance is better in an uptrend. Then in that time, go check an asset that it's moving in a good way in an uptrend. That's the whole thing, because the asset it's still the same. Don't think that BTC it's gonna give you, like, let's say, better results than other assets. No, all both of them, if you know how exactly to trade, as an example, an uptrend, and you look into it like in a proper way, then that's how exactly you will be looking at things. Now, moving into this, as I said, I don't really have, like, let's say, a high time frame bias. I do think at some stage when we are looking at the high time frame that BTC still has more to give within this year. Now, is this year it's putting for us a topping candle and we might drop all the way to the downside? Well, I can talk about this, to be honest with you, if two things it's gonna happen from here. The first one, that I need to see BTC moving all the way and to lose the yearly open at some stage and drop here without seeing a decent bounce, lose it again, and then we start tumbling to the downside. Fine, we can start talking about this liquidity here. And in that time, yeah, I mean, they might come and seek this liquidity, they might come seek this liquidity, they might come seek other liquidity to the downside. It's very possible, yeah. But if that's not the case, if that's not what's happening, then why do I have to worry about this? Now let's talk a little bit also about high time frame. Now, if BTC is going to hold these levels and it's going to move to the upper side, she will have the opportunity to continue to higher levels if, and just if, we started sustaining above this. So if I'm looking at this, BTC is still stuck in a range. Why do you want to get a bias where you do have a 7% trade that it's not fully exposed, which is it's around the yearly range, and still, by the way, there is a decent play, like, let's say, to look at it, that you might even drop, like, let's say, to lower levels. But that's a range. That's a nice formation. Could this be a move up, retrace, another push to the upper side? Very possible. So where we can push towards, that's something we can look at it. And as I said, this is just why we are taking into consideration that BTC needs to hold the 87, or sorry, the 90,300. That's as a monthly pivot level. So with the closing that we do have it for this week, we really need to see BTC closing above this, so we can look into this, that, yeah, look, we broke above this, which it was a major resistance, even a small resistance, and this, and then after that to look into early of the week to start pushing to further higher levels. You are still dealing with this area as a climatic weekly range. Whenever you do have a climatic weekly range or a breaker range, you need to deal with it from the downside and you need to deal with it from the upper side. It's not the case that we do have it here. You don't have really, like, let's say, a clear path and a clear decision. Is this, by the way, this kind of a price action. Is it the same of this price action? Absolutely not. That's my opinion. Why it's not? No, that's the whole thing. Like, what's the reason that it's not? Well, it's not because, in my opinion, that this range that you do have it here, it's coming after a move, retrace, a move up, retrace. So you're still building some kind of a consolidation here. This move, you're coming from a downtrend. So it's not like into a range of a consolidation. Would we look at this range that we do have here, the same of this range? Very possible. Would this be the same of this range? It's also possible, but it's not the most preferable one. Why isn't the most preferable one? Because if this move that we are getting it here, that we moved on the way up and we retraced, we moved up and we are coming at this area and we started trading into this, well, you need to factor that maybe at some stage the price is going to come sweep this area before it's going to start taking any kind of a major direction toward higher levels. So I don't like really to put similarities. I do prefer to look at the price of what I do have here and just to see what kind of an exposure that I can get it, like let's say into the market. But again, remember, we are still trading with this, you're still trading with this. None of the liquidity from the upper side from here got swept. None of it also from this side got swept too. Now, looking also at this part that we do have it, I will put for you another level that I think BTC, even if you will be wicking to the downside, just assuming that we are wicking to the downside, there is another area that we do have it here that BTC might visit it one more time before any kind of a move or a push to the upper side. That's more of a weakness if it's going to happen. But yeah, that's very possible that BTC can come and retrace this area specifically at around these 2 wicks. And yeah, that's possible. So maybe you're going to get an early move, like let's say to the upper side into the week. If you start with losing, then you would be expecting something like this to happen, and later on we see what exactly could be the case and what could be the scenario, like let's say on BTC. But looking at it, it's really not giving you much. You've been like, let's say, literally stuck into this range. Nothing really is happening. And this also was another thing, like let's say to look at it, that you spent here literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weekly candles, 42 days in this range without moving. So before you move, don't come up with some kind of expectations that, oh, look, this is the same of this. They are not the same. They are not the same. One of them, it's coming after an impulsive move and the aggressive move to the downside. This is the normal retrace and the continuation. So you do have, like, let's say, this move that you are moving in it, and now you have a downtrend. So this also could play into some kind of a direction that, yeah, she can go to lower levels. So as I said, now looking at the yearly ranges and looking at the yearly candle, in a way or another, you need just to put yourself in some kind of, expectations to what exactly you would be expecting from BTC to do this year. Well, my expectations, just because of how exactly we closed the previous yearly candle, my expectations is to look at BTC to give us some nice moves. First of all, into the mid-range. So from 47 toward the 100K, tell things it's going to start getting clearer. Could we push and move all the way to the upper side? Yeah, because at an area that it was forming as a support, then you could just like break under it, come back to retest it, and then after that you can break to the downside and you can continue lower. It's very possible to look at these kind of things, area that it was forming support, lost it, tumbled to the downside, you move to the upper side, and then after that you just continued lower. This is an area that we broke down officially from it. So this area, if you will be looking at it, 2 areas that I do have that I'm paying attention to it. One is this area. And the second one is this area. It's kind of a big area on BTC, looking at, like, let's say, the kind of a structure from here that we will be looking at it, but that's the kind of a formation that I do have it. Now, because we are looking into this kind of a weekly range that we do have it, my expectations, it's going to be as the following. So if we will be marking this range, if started seeing that the price pushing up, holding, then I do expect more of a move still to the upper side for BTC, to where maybe we're going to start coming and threatening this inefficiency and this imbalance that we do have it here. Cool. What if we pushed higher? Well, we pushed higher. into this range and into this region, if by any chance we really started coming and we swept all of this area, if we can, and we started holding and we started pushing and moving to the upper side, maybe even we can trade this area to the upper side. That's something to look at it. But because this kind of structure and this kind of a direction, I'm still dealing with some nasty rejections and some nasty areas that we dropped from it, and we saw a major sell-off into these kind of things, then for me, getting the exposure into a weekly basis, it means much better. It means that I can trade along into this week. If there will be retraces, fine. I'm not seeing a major, like, let's say, confluence with the short, maybe looking into this week, catching the second move. Then after that, you might also do this as an example, and then maybe, like, let's say, a push to the upper side, and like, something like, let's say, if we will be really reaching this area and trading, like, let's say, into this zone. But the point, if I will be looking at this and I will be just like clearing things to the upper side, few things that I can just mark it and look at it in a proper way. We mark this level, we mark this area, just push it properly. And here you go. That's another one. That's a third one. That's a fourth one. So splitting this into some kind of ranges here at around these levels, at some stage, in order to see BTC trading to the upper side, I need to see this sweep of this area and the push. If we started trading into this inefficiency and into this zone, BTC needs to sustain. If you started losing this, I think by that time you can start tumbling on, like, let's say, all the way to the downside. If you started losing this area, So it depends on what kind of a formation that you do have it. Let's assume that as an example, that's, kind of an optimal scenario, especially that you started moving and you started pushing to the upper side early from the year. You push to the upper side, you come, you sweep this region here. You hold this area, there is a decent opportunity to come and to push here. If no acceptance and you started losing this area, then I do believe in a way or another that you're going to start coming and tumbling to the downside. What other probabilities that we do have it here? Let's assume you came, you pushed, you even pushed further, you kept holding this area and this zone. Maybe you do have the capacity to come and to trade to this area. And same thing you're going to be applying here. But these kind of moves that I'm looking at it, if this is going to happen, I don't really have a high time frame bias that I can say, oh, that's confirmed. That's like that what exactly I will be looking at it. Because the way how exactly I'm looking at these kind of a price action that we had it here, you move to the downside, you move to the downside, you move to the downside, and this is where exactly you form the flipping early, the momentum and showing the compression at around these levels in order to push to the upper side. This is where exactly your downtrend that you get it here. And in fact, by the way, this wasn't a confirmed downtrend on all the time frame. So this confirmed the downtrend that you had it by this time on the 1 hour and the 4 hours time frame, but it didn't confirm it on the daily basis or on the weekly basis. That's something simple. You can look at it into this kind of a structure, a move to the upper side, break out, and then a confirmation, retraces, continuation to the upper side. That's not confirmed as a break on the weekly time frame. You didn't break any structure, you didn't break anything. Looking at a high time frame, move up, retrace, continuation. That's a kind of move that you get it at around these levels. This was a problem at around these levels. Why? Because we confirmed the breakdown on multiple levels. At least I'm looking at the daily time frame. This was a clean reversals on the daily time frame for me, looking at lower levels. This here of what exactly we formed at around these levels was a full confirmed reversals also on the daily time frame. So for that, this is a downtrend. Nothing is showing for me a major strength for a move to the upper side with a major reversals. And as long as that is what exactly the scenario that I do have it here, then I don't have really a full bias to trade blindly and calling for all-time high. Momentum is to the downside. Everything is looking to the downside. In fact, you do have also a bearish momentum that it's appearing on a daily time frame. On a daily time frame, by the way, on a weekly time frame. But just to check this out, on a daily time frame, unfortunately, the problem that you do have it here, that you move to the upper side, but then after that, you also lost the smallest momentum. That's absolutely normal because BTC, in fact, you didn't gain momentum on the weekly basis. And that's the whole thing. When you lose the momentum, you come, you try, like, let's say, to trade toward it, you might lose it afterward, you might lose it again afterward because it didn't flip a momentum, you didn't flip a support, you didn't form anything. And to clear it for you here, to make it even clearer, imagine yourself that you are at this state. You moved, you couldn't hold, you came. You traded a little bit to lower levels. You tried even to come to the upper side. You dealt with the area that you broke down from it, and then after that, you tumbled to the downside. This, by the way, can take a decent period in terms of the number of weeks. These are 77 days. So that could be another, like, let's say, 1.5 months from around these levels. Could BTC has the capacity to do this and then to break to the downside? Very possible. Why not? In fact, it's not going to be looking like really, like, let's say, bad. But yeah, at this stage, you need to see buyers really stepping in and just holding the levels once you trade, like, let's say, toward this area, if in case we broke to the downside and we just like, just snoop to the downside. Now, as a structure, because I don't have a bias on BTC for a high time frame, and I'm just trading it simply using two simple plays and two simple strategies. One simple strategy, in fact, on a weekly bias using the pivot monthly levels, which is I mark it for you the 90,300. And from before, you also just to look for some kind of setups. I'm gonna just again show you what exactly was the setups that we played it last week. This was literally the setup that we played it last week. For me, that was the move that I played it on BTC. That's it. That's my exposure. I need just an exposure on this asset. If it gives me a trigger and the clean trigger, then done. You lose it, you tumble to the downside. Came back to retest it, came back to retest it, fine. But that's a kind of a structure that I do have. There is a behavior that also it's looking a little bit interesting, where BTC in general, in a way or another, that it's moving away from the weekend range, coming back to it by the end of the week. Maybe moving a little bit under it, maybe coming back to it, like let's say early in the week. So this kind of behavior, it is giving you the impression that BTC is basing out, but the main exact problem that BTC didn't confirm reversals on a high time frame. And this is just nothing other than a downtrend. By all means, on every single, by the way, time frame. Let me show you something on the monthly basis so you just understand what exactly you are putting yourself in it. Not a single monthly closing from the moment that we started running on BTC that you lost the strong momentum, except this time. You are trading under the 5 and the 13. And the moment that you are trading for me under the 5 and the 13 means that the momentum for me is to the downside. And if the momentum is to the downside, I don't want just like to get a big struggle into this. So that's something, just pay attention to it and keep it in your mind. For me, the best exposure is just to get it on a weekly basis. I don't have any single bias, and I don't think that would be the case unless there is something that it's changing dramatically on BTC, which is I will be updating you on it accordingly the moment that it's going to happen. And I will be telling you, just frankly speaking, that I'm looking for higher all across. Now, do we have something that it's looking interesting in regards to BTC, in regards to altcoins? Well, maybe, just like if you are looking at others against BTC, it's looking fine. It's looking nice, in terms of just these ranges and these moves. By the end, you do have this full identified range. Will this, like, let's say, be that, others, they're going to outperform BTC? It's very possible. Maybe this is where exactly some altcoins, they're going to start having, some nice runs from here and there. But if BTC it's going to go lower, I doubt that you're going to find like alts that they're going to sustain. And in that time, maybe there will be the case that, as an example, if alts they're going to like really like, let's say, be prepared to get a move. If BTC it's going to tumble down before it's going to confirm the reversal, then in that time you will see like, let's say, alts that they are moving and maybe coming into the lows one more time, or maybe sweeping the lows for a drop before a move to the upper side. That's if we will be talking about BTC going to the 73, the 65, these kind of things. But if that's not the case, then still you will be expecting altcoins to move to the upper side. Logically speaking, if that's a move, retrace, continuation. If BTC, it's going to push higher from here, holding the 90,300, 89 region also, if or 88.3 region, if in case of a wicks and drops without, like, let's say, I would say 3 days closing under it, then in that time you'll be expecting alts to move to the upper side. So just dealing with pivot levels, it's something that it's going to protect you and it's going to keep you just, somehow protected in how exactly you would be looking at things. For me, as long as I'm holding this, fine. I might see a move to the upper side. If I'm not holding it, then again on Monday we confirm how exactly things would be looking. So for alts, yeah, it's showing some strength against BTC. That's something, it's obvious, I wouldn't have an issue with it. I wouldn't look, at any other things other than this. It is looking fine for me. But that's something just to take into consideration. The move that you get it here to the downside and this reversal where you got yourself, like, let's say the USDT and the USDT and against, by the way, let me just move into this. That's much better, which is that's including BTC dominance. You got yourself this full identified range. Okay, that this is the move. Now, this move that you get it's looking definitely a kind of a weak move on BTC dominance that, like, let's say, you get, like, let's say, a little bit of a move to the downside. But before that, from early of the year, sorry, you got, like, let's say, this move down. And if this is going to continue, this is where exactly the strength for alt it's going to come. But what you want to see, if you want really to sustain a decent move on alts, you want BTC dominance to move to the upper side with BTC. Let's assume that this while BTC is going lower, then it's going to form the low of the year as an example. And BTC dominance to move again to the upper side, and BTC just to start moving sideways or ranges or give some retraces, and this again to start coming to the downside. Because again, for me, this is now nothing more than a range, more or less. With this move that you already, like, let's say, swept a major liquidity on these levels, you do have some kind of a climatic range, like, let's say, on the way to the upper side, to the downside. This is the kind of range that I do expect this year maybe to move in it, into some kind of moves to the upper side or to the downside. I can't say that this is a topping, yearly we move, like a top yearly candle that, like, BTC dominance, it's going to go to the downside and it's going to tumble down. It's just like, normal bias, I would say. Now, that's the main problem when you are looking at the yearly candles. That's your main problem. That for this chart, in order for it to look bullish, you want this to go down. And the problem here that we are not going down. So this is really a major, like, chart, when you are looking at it. Could this just form some kind of a range? Kind of big range that we do have it here. If this is going to push all the way to sweep this liquidity that it's here and it's sitting here, then this where exactly your problem is going to start. The good side that this started pushing down, but we want this to break down. Where do you want it to break down? Did you sweep major liquidity at around these levels? 100% you did with this move. And it's the one that literally it started moving to the upper side. This, the moment, if in case you started moving, that's my expectations, and you started breaking under it, then you started threatening this liquidity. And from here, you need to be extremely careful because this can still come back all the way to the upper side and break to the upper levels. If this is going to keep continuing and showing a weakness, then fine. But this, if it's going to break to the upper side, you do have a big problem here. And it's not really difficult to identify a weekly closing above these levels, then you do have a major problem. And if that would be the case, then you will be expecting a major pullbacks to take place all across the board in regards to alts and in regards, like, let's say, to BTC. My main issue here, that this yearly candle is not a weak yearly candle that you get it at around these levels. What does it mean? It means that for now, you don't want to see at any stage this chart is giving you any weekly closing above this area. That's it. If that's the case, then still, again, looking at this into some kind of a range, that's a full identified range for me. How can you play it? Well, you can play it into this way. Deviation. Could it come back into the range? Yeah, it could, but you need it to come back under this range. So it can break to the downside, and that would be, your strength when it's coming, like, let's say, to BTC and all these things. Like, yeah, fine, she can come even to the mid-range. From here, we will see. Is it giving you shallow pullbacks and then a move to the downside? Very possible. But this is not a weakness that we can just confirm it and we can rely on it just blindly, So that's just like the structure, again, that I do have it on BTC. Some nice moves that it might provide you on weekly basis, but my advice, just be careful when you want to build a high time frame blind bias that I'm going just high, long, and all these kind of things without even looking at things like, let's say, to look to the downside. From the assets that I do think it's showing strength, if BTC it's moving to the upper side, definitely it's BNB, just because it's coming from this kind of a direction that you do have it here. So you'd be expecting this, if BTC pushing a little bit to the upper side, BNB most probably it's going to be looking nice. for a continuation. Other than this, not much that they are forming, like let's say a nice structure with a nice compression that we do have it. We saw a nice move on Tau to the upper side. We didn't see a major sweep of liquidity, but again, same thing that it's coming into render. They do have a kind of identifier range under the major area. I mean, if you want like really to turn bullish on this, let it come, sweep this area, move to the downside, come break above this and sustain above it so we can talk about a new range. But before that, it's going to happen. Just be careful because this can also tumble to the downside and just, roll it down fully. It's not like it didn't happen before. Well, it happened many times. You move to the upper side, you come back to sweep the lows. You move even to the upper side, you form like a decent move. And then after that, you come and then you trade all the way to the downside. I'm just saying that be careful and don't take a blind price. Now, the most important thing, speaking of like on all these kind of things. I do have few things that I do look at it when it's coming to the markets and when it's coming, like, let's say, to the structure. If I'm looking at EM against SPX, this is more looking at the emerging markets, that it's not the US, you know. If I'm looking at this, it looks like this is basing out in terms of a structure. And I don't trade, invert, head and shoulder and all these kind of things. I don't trade them. They are not, for me, they are not really valid. But for me, if this is something that I want to pay attention to it, I want to look into this as the following. If this, by any chance, it's going to start moving and pushing to the upper side, sweeping this and sustain this and start moving, this for me, where exactly this kind of a chart is looking good to start moving and to start filling some of the inefficiency that we do have it here. This doesn't mean that the US market is going to go down. This means that if the US market also is going up, you're going to find that other markets in China, in Brazil, in India, in Japan, and they're going to outperform the US market. And this is where exactly I want to get just better exposure. And this, if you want to think about it, you're going to be thinking about it like, let's assume that the US market, it's going to go like, let's say, to upper levels. This means that other markets, it's going to go maybe 30% better, more, And if it's going to go to the downside, definitely I'll be looking, into the US market to short it as an example. So that's the first part. And if I'm looking at this also, I'm looking at also another thing, just to show you where we do have some kind of weaknesses that it happened, on BTC against, like, let's say, the S&P, because this chart is not really looking the best. It's not looking the best. You're coming again, retracing definitely into a nice area and an area of consolidation that you do have it here. But this needs to start moving to the upper side and reclaim with the strength. So you can say that now BTC is going to outperform, as an example, other markets. If that's not the case, then maybe pay attention to BTC, giving you some roll back or to roll down a little bit to the downside before maybe it's going to confirm a move and it's going to start trading against the S&P. And this means that BTC is going to outperform the S&P. And this is, by the way, the major weakness that you do have it here, where everyone is just looking at things and they will never, like, let's say, they will trade, they will look at BTC against gold. Yeah, BTC against gold, it didn't top. And I spoke about this a million times. This is, in fact, a bearish chart from the moment that you came at around these levels. Now, how exactly it's looking? Well, it's looking that, yeah, maybe this is going to base out. Possible. But this also can roll down all the way, by the way, to the downside because of this kind of chart that you do have it. Why? Because by the end, to be honest with you, it's nothing more than a range. But you get this, where you get this to be a deviation, sorry, back into the range, all the way to the top of the range, clean deviation, back into the range, maybe to the bottom of the range. It's also possible. This is the kind of structure that you do have it for BTC against gold. Will this base out here? Well, let's look a little bit on a high time frame. That's your 12 months chart, where BTC against gold wiped the whole profit that you had it here. Let's look at it into a proper way. I do have two levels. It's not like something that you really need to chart it in a proper way and just like, just look at it into deep detail. Not really. You're not in a need to do that. But I will give you some pivot levels where you will be expecting BTC to trade toward higher levels. But looking at this at a 3 months time frame, this is a problem with how we closed the last 3 months. Even by the way, this coming into the bottom of the range, fine. Maybe you're going to be coming and trading toward this area before you see some kind of a reversal for BTC against gold. Very possible. And I think at some stage, yeah, you will be just trading this inefficiency here. Assuming that this also, it's going to roll down. At some stage, you start coming and you start moving. You started trading above this. You are now back into the upper range and maybe, but this needs to base out, needs to confirm a reversal, and then after that, if it's going to start pushing to the upper side, then it's looking absolutely fine. This will take you against S&P. Same thing. If you will be looking at it, that's how exactly your last 3 months candle closed. This is not really looking the best in terms of a 3 months candle, but at the same time, let's stick to the high time frame. Yearly, you have a problem. You do have a problem. Could this be a topping candle? Topping or not topping, it has a sell pressure. What does it mean? As for now, these are the levels that you want to see BTC holding against SPX. If this is going to start rolling down, then you will be expecting this to come all the way maybe to this area before, again, another major move and a reversal that might happen later on. Could be, by the way, later on in the year, because usually every single year it has a drop and expansion, maybe a contraction. Could this be just a contraction that you trade toward the yearly open, where you drop away from the yearly open, you come back to it, or this could be a major reversal where you just do this and then you just continue to the upper side. It's also very possible. I don't have really any kind of bias. I can't tell you let's say, oh, BTC, it's going to outperform SPX. BTC, it's going to outperform gold. Why? You would be expecting that. That's not something to look at it. But if I'm looking at something, I'm looking simply as this and as this. For now, I'm looking at this and I'm looking at emerging markets that have the potential to outperform the SPX. SPX has the potential to outperform BTC with the chart that I do have it now. Emerging market, it has also the potential to outperform BTC. Then why do I have to just kill myself looking at BTC? Maybe just just be patient a little bit and see what exactly this year it's going to bring us. Maybe it's just on like a low mood that we can trade BTC on it, and just we will be looking for just the weekly exposure, because this has the capacity, honestly, just to move and to push a little bit further more into this area and into this area again, maybe before a major reversal that it might come, or at least a contraction move back into the yearly open for let's say this chart, and then to start just moving and the dropping lower. So is this, by the way, is this a downtrend? It is officially a downtrend. It is officially a downtrend. This is a clean downtrend. So emerging markets, they were all the time against BTC. BTC was doing better till you reach this area. You based out fully. And when you based out, this started moving. And this is where exactly this last year, you found gold, you found silver, you found this, you found that they all outperformed BTC. And that's the whole thing, why we keep telling you, or I keep telling you personally, diversify. Just diversify. You're not going to lose anything. Actually, you will get a lot of benefits when you diversify. The problem will never be with your trading strategy. The problem is going to be by the asset that you are trading and the environment that you are trading it. What does it mean by the asset? The asset means that you are trying to apply the same thing in something that it works with you really well in an uptrend or a range. But the asset is in a downtrend. So if it's on a downtrend, this strategy, it's not going to work with you. So the environment and the asset, both of them together. Now the asset, because sometimes you really want, let's say, to look into something that it has the volume. And when it has the volume, everything is looking fine and it's looking nice. So try to get the exposure there. And I think it's going to start looking better when it's coming to this place. Now, looking just as a quick move where I'll be covering the rest of the things for you into tomorrow. But that's what I've been talking about. Now you do have a double combo here. You do have emerging markets, and you do have some chart that is looking absolutely strong and it's looking absolutely solid, bullish, and all these kind of things. This yearly candle is not a weak yearly candle. Now at this stage, what you want to see, Nikai, is just to keep trading above this area and maybe to continue the play to the upper side. Will it give a retest, like let's say into this? It's very possible. You don't want at any stage this move to get faded at somewhere at around these levels and to lose the yearly open. The moment that you do this and you start coming and sweeping this area and you lose it, then in that time, this can start tumbling to the downside. Otherwise, you need to take this into a bullish structure that still maybe it has the capacity to move to the upper side. So this is the first one. Same thing, the you do have it, by the way, when it's coming to Jerb. It's looking decent for me. Same thing, I spoke to you about it and I covered it for you many, many, many times. Where what do you want more than literally sitting in a full range, just like for a good amount of period, almost a year? You've been just like ranging sideways, get a nice deviation, move to the upper side, keep consolidating early into the year, a breakout, a continuation. Does it have the capacity to trade these levels? I think she has the capacity to trade this area, maybe this area, and then we will see by that time what will be the case. That's again something that it could give you better performance than the US market, and some other things when it's coming to forex. So looking at this, that's a nice yearly candle that we got it. That's a very nice yearly candle that you get it here with the closing that you have it at around these levels. In fact, you got, by the way, a nice also yearly candle before at around these levels. Let me just go on a lower time frame and we'll show you what exactly I'm talking about when it's coming, like let's say to these levels and these areas. Let me fix this just properly so I can do it in a proper way for you. This one also, let me just do it in a proper way too. So the previous year, when you got your move into this play, 2023, where you moved a little bit to the downside in 2023, you formed, like let's say the new range for the year, up and down. You started moving, you broke above this, and you continued a nice run into 2024. You can see it, 2024. That was the year where you moved all the way and you pushed all the way to the upper side. Now you do have this area, 2025. 2025, that's the play that you got it in 2025. Price came, sorry, you started the year at somewhere at around these levels. That's your beginning of the year. First. Here you go. You started it here. You started in a big expansion move to the downside, coming back into a major area of support or an SR flip. And then you move all the way to the upper side. Is this a bullish chart for the yearly basis? It is a bullish chart because you got a nice chart at around these levels. Now, where exactly this is going to put us? It's going to put us that we do have this area and we do have this area. Would CAD JPY move all the way to the upper side into this? Well, let's check something. Put some pivot levels that we do have them on the chart. And upon that, we can decide how we can play this accordingly. For now, we can get a full throwback into this area. Very possible. Sorry. And here at the same time. But if this is going to show you at some stage, I do prefer definitely this area to give, like, let's say, a full throwback. But this structure that I do have it here, till I'm going to start coming and sweeping this area and also this area that we do have it, we do have a major inefficiency to around these levels. Now, this is, guys, by the way, it's not an easy move when it's coming to Forex. When you catch, like, let's say, a 4 or 5% move on Forex, then that's a decent one. My best play into this kind of structure that I do have it here, the weekly is looking strong. Would this be that by any chance, we do have two scenarios here. We either move up, continue, reclaim the yearly open and continue to the upper side and push further, or this might give us even a throwback into this area or into this area before a continuation to the upper side. But I do have a kind of a bias for CAD JPY looking into higher levels. So that's the first one. The second one also that I do have it's AUD JPY. Same thing, same structure. This for me is also looking strong with the way how exactly it's closed. This yearly closing that you do have it here, it's kind of favoring higher levels. You didn't get any single yearly candle as a closing, like let's say above these levels, and now you get this yearly candle with a closing above it. So these kind of things, it's also giving you some nice structure, some beautiful moves. And this, by the way, the difference between this and CAD JPY, that this is trading by default above the yearly open, which it was at somewhere at around these levels. So the bias from here, it is to look for higher as long as you are moving to the upper side and you are looking at this. This is, by the way, something you might keep an eye on it into this coming week as the open, because you swept a major liquidity here. If it's sustained and if it started breaking above this area, then you will be looking for higher levels to come. The only thing that you need to pay attention to it, for me, by the way, as long as we are holding above this, then in that time we are looking for higher levels. Other than this, what could be the scenario? Well, the scenario, if you started stalling here and you started losing momentum, then in that time you might get a pullback before a push and the continuation to the upper side. That's a kind of a structure. Now you're going to tell me how exactly I can play it. That's why you get a bias looking into the yearly open, and as long for me as it's above the yearly open, for strong assets, I'm looking for a continuation and the further continuation to the upper side. Because this move, I don't think that there is really any problem for you to look for higher levels into this as long as it's holding two major areas into this, which this is the one, the first one, and this is the major second area. So for me, as long as I'm holding above these two levels, then I'm looking for higher levels. That's it. It's as simple as this. And in order to make it, like, let's say, in a better formation, you don't want to see closing under this area. That's it. You are trading this inefficiency that you don't have it here. So that's pretty much it on these two plays. Covered a little bit of, like, let's say, forex. We covered BTC into too many detailed views. And as I told you, the whole thing and the whole idea that I really don't have a bias just because of how exactly it's looking and the structure, how exactly it's looking. That's it. Same thing when we open the year. And I reviewed this also for you big time into the last, I would say, last few days. And from the moment that the price also started dropping here into the first day of the year, and I told you about this, gold, it's looking like it's respecting because they left the clue at somewhere at around these levels when we started pushing and moving to the upper side. And this is where you scam everyone, just like, that gold is just topping and you're just going to start rolling down. I think you still have the capacity to move a little bit higher. I will be covering this in more details for like, let's say, what exactly you need to look at it, but that's your yearly open. That's a kind of push and the expansion that you are getting it toward higher levels. I still do think that it's worth it really to pay attention that you might see higher levels into this. Maybe the 4,666 were exactly, or 650 that I spoke about it. Maybe she can push even further, like let's say to the upper side. We'll see. I will be dropping for you all these levels by tomorrow. And also you can find it in the free Discord starting from this coming week, because I'm going to start dropping for you some chart in more detailed way than what exactly I was covering for you. I'm really sorry for this long video, this long overview. It's nice to just like, cover all the stuff that you will be looking at it, and all the stuff that it's important just to pay attention to it. Same thing that it's looking for me into silver. The only thing that I do have a little bit of differences into silver. I don't mind, to be honest with you, a little bit of a pullback before a push to the upper side. I just don't mind it, But yeah, for me on this one also, I don't have really a major bias just because we like the closing. This is really an extended yearly candle. My exposure on this is just on weekly basis, whether to the upper side or to the downside. US oil, it's looking like she wants to move and she wants, like, let's say, to push up. I didn't like the formation that we do have it here. I think everyone is speculating in this, just like, to move to the upper side. You need to factor something on US oil. Maybe there is one more drop to the downside at some stage before I move to the upper side. I don't like the way how exactly it started moving early into the year after this kind of a formation from the last year, because this last year it closed definitely with a major weakness and a major sell pressure. You want to see the price just maybe sweeping these lows, and then after that, if it's gonna reverse, it's gonna reverse. It's fine, you know. But again, as as what exactly we do have here, yeah, you do have some kind of a string that it appeared here on the 1 hour, the 4 hours, and the daily time frame. But for me, it's again just a weekly exposure and nothing else, because I wasn't really convinced with how exactly it's spacing out. Yeah, she has the capacity to move all the way to the upper side to the 62. And then from there, we can see what exactly the play. But I need to rely on every single week, week by week, to look at it. So for now, that's the kind of things that you'll be looking at it, holding this area and holding this move. You want to see early into the week a kind of a move and a push further south, so she can come and maybe she can start coming and trading toward these highs. Be careful, guys, for this, for this coming month. Just be careful, because things aren't really clear, and there are, like, let's say, some intentions that it's happening outside with all the kind of stupid things that you are hearing it in the world. I hope this year it's gonna bring you nothing except the best and a lot of peace and a lot of health. um, but just do yourself a favor, and first of all, don't get too much exposure into the market blindly. Try to catch part of the moves instead of, want to catch every single move. Try to diversify. Without it, it's gonna be unfortunately painful for you guys. You just understand what exactly happened on BTC when you are looking at BTC literally from July 2026, that you stopped progressing. You just stopped progressing. And the only thing, when you are looking at this and you look at these kind of things and why exactly it's stopped progressing, because in July, exactly at around these levels, you just formed a major weakness that you do have it against the S&P as an example, and you started taking the move to the downside. And no one's just telling you that, oh, and we are still in a bull market, extended bull market. Extended what? You just get smacked against, like, let's say, other assets. And the second, you can't just like marry an asset or marry an industry. You just can't just get whatever you can get from it and just get the hell out. And the second thing, as an example, where you do have it here, here you go. Or let's do this first. Same thing. What happened? BTC against gold. Check this out. January 2025. And from here, July, you just started the downtrend. You just started the downtrend. You just done. Just stumbled to the downside. Again, what is this? July 2025. This started running and they outperformed BTC. So why you would be in asset that there are other assets that it's outperforming it? So imagine you longed anything else. That's just the way how I'm looking at it. So forget about all the trash that is happening outside. Forget about just like anyone who's telling you, like, let's say, oh, we are in a, like, like a super cycle, and you just forget it. Try to really set your milestones for this year. Try to see what exactly you want to trade. And as I told you, and as I advise you, try to diversify, try to catch part of the moves, try to keep your exposure relatively light for 2026. Just make sure that you don't take a blind bias into something that you don't know what exactly the levels of it and what exactly she can do. Make sure you bank your profits all the time. Don't keep a lot on the table for the market to take it back. And wish you all the best. Wish you an amazing 2026 coming ahead. Have a stellar weekend. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll catch up with you by tomorrow. Cheers. Bye bye.